Long before your baby can speak, before they can even hold up their own head, something is quietly being built. In the way you lift them when they cry, in the face you make when they finally look at you, in 1,000 tiny moments that feel like nothing at all, you are writing the very first draft of how this person will love and trust and feel safe for the rest of their life. Psychologists call this hidden blueprint attachment. And by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the single biggest thing that predicts a secure, resilient child. More than money, more than being calm all the time, more than almost anything you would guess. And here is the twist. It has almost nothing to do with being a perfect mother. In fact, it is something much smaller and much more human that you may already be doing without even realizing it. So stay with me, because once you see it, you will never look at these ordinary moments with your baby the same way again. First, what attachment actually is. It is the emotional bond between a baby and the person who cares for them, and it is one of the deepest wiring projects a human brain ever undertakes. Your baby is born completely helpless, unable to feed themselves, warm themselves, or calm themselves down. So their tiny nervous system asks one single, constant question. When I am scared, or hungry, or overwhelmed, will someone come? And every single time you answer that question, by showing up, by holding them, by meeting their eyes, you give them an answer their brain quietly records and keeps. Over thousands of these small moments, your child builds an inner map, what psychologists call an internal working model, of what relationships are. Are people safe? Am I worth comforting? Can I trust the world to catch me when I fall? That map, drawn in these first years, becomes the lens they carry into every friendship, every love, and every fear, for decades. But to understand how that map gets drawn, science first had to get one enormous thing completely, embarrassingly wrong. For a long time, doctors believed a baby's love for its mother was simple. She was just the one who provided milk. Feed the body, they said, and that was all a child truly needed. Affection, they even warned, might spoil them. Then, in the 1950s, a researcher named Harry Harlow ran an experiment that shattered that idea forever. He offered infant monkeys two artificial mothers. One was made of cold, hard wire, but it gave milk. The other gave no food at all, but it was wrapped in soft cloth, warm to the touch. If love was really about food, the babies should have clung to the wire mother. But they did not. They ran to the soft cloth mother and held on for dear life, letting go only to feed, then rushing straight back to her comfort. When something frightened them, it was the soft mother they clung to, never the one with the milk. It was undeniable proof of something we now take for granted. A baby does not just need to be fed. A baby needs to be held. Comfort, warmth, and closeness are not extras. They are a biological need, as real as hunger itself. And once science accepted that, it opened a far bigger question. What exactly is happening inside a baby's brain while this bond is being built? The answer is staggering. In the first 2 years of life, a baby's brain builds more than 1 million new connections every single second, and it wires itself based on experience. It is asking, over and over, what kind of world is this? When you respond to your baby, a look, a soft word, a smile back, you complete a loop that scientists call serve and return. Your baby serves, with a cry or a coo, and you return it. Each of these tiny exchanges is another brick in the architecture of their stress response, their emotions, and their sense of safety. And to see just how deeply a baby feels these returns, researchers ran a chilling little experiment. A mother is asked to look warmly at her baby, and then, on cue, to hold a completely still, blank face and give nothing back. Within seconds, the baby smiles, points, reaches, doing everything in their tiny power to win their mother back. And when they cannot, they crumble into distress. It is called the still face experiment, and it reveals something profound. Your baby is not merely soothed by your responses. They are wired to need them, the way lungs are wired to need air. But knowing the bond mattered was one thing. Actually seeing its shape, in a real living child, took one deceptively simple test and a door. The psychologist who first dared to say a child's need for love was as vital as their need for food was named John Bowlby. But it was a researcher named Mary Ainsworth who found a way to actually see that bond. She designed a now famous study called the strange situation. She would bring a mother and baby into an unfamiliar room, let them settle, and then have the mother quietly leave for a few minutes before returning through that door. And here is the part that surprised everyone. It was not the leaving that revealed the most. It was the reunion. In that single moment, when the mother came back, you could see the entire shape of their bond. Whether the baby reached for her, ignored her, or fell completely apart, revealed the pattern that had been quietly forming between them since birth. And from those reunions, Ainsworth saw children fall into 4 distinct styles. So let me walk you through them. And as I do, I want you to quietly ask yourself 2 questions. Which one is my child? And, maybe more importantly, which one was me? Let us start with the lucky one. The first, and the one every parent hopes for, is called secure attachment. When the mother left, these children usually protested because they missed her. But when she returned, they were easily soothed. A few moments in her arms, and they were calm again, ready to go back to playing. They had learned one simple, powerful truth. My person comes back. And here is why you should care about this beyond the nursery. As these children grow, that early security tends to become a quiet strength. They find it easier to trust, easier to lean on others without fear, and easier to be leaned on. In adulthood, securely attached people can get close without losing themselves, and can be alone without falling apart. Their lives are not free of pain, but underneath it all runs a steady current of belief that they are worthy of love, and that people, on the whole, can be trusted to stay. If that sounds like a lucky few, it is, because most of us learned something a little more complicated. Which brings us to the second style. Not every child learns that their person reliably comes back. When a baby's care is unpredictable, sometimes warm and attentive, sometimes distant or overwhelmed, through no fault of a mother simply stretched too thin, the child faces a confusing world. They can never quite predict which version of comfort they will get. So they adapt in the only way that makes sense. They turn up the volume. In the strange situation, these anxiously attached children were the hardest to settle. Even when the mother returned, they clung and cried, angry and inconsolable, as if they could not trust that she would truly stay. Now here is where it gets personal. As adults, this often echoes as a deep fear of abandonment, needing constant reassurance, reading danger into small silences, loving intensely but anxiously, always braced for the moment the people they need might leave. If you felt a small jolt of recognition just now, you are not broken. You simply had a nervous system that learned very early that love was real, but that it could never quite be counted on. And maybe you already know someone who learned the exact opposite lesson, because other children learn something entirely different. When a baby's bids for comfort are regularly met with dismissal, when tears are brushed off, or big feelings make the adult uncomfortable, the child learns something quietly heartbreaking. That needing others does not work, so they stop asking. In the strange situation, these avoidantly attached babies looked on the surface almost unbothered. When the mother left, they barely reacted. When she came back, they ignored her and turned back to their toys. But researchers measuring their heart rates found something haunting. Inside, they were just as distressed as every other child. They had simply learned to hide it, even from themselves. As adults, this can become a fierce, lonely independence, a discomfort with closeness, a habit of pulling away the moment things get too intimate, a quiet belief that it is safer to need no one at all. They are not cold. They are children who learned long ago that reaching out only led to disappointment, so they stopped reaching. Secure, anxious, avoidant. But there is a fourth pattern, and it is the one we most need to understand with compassion. It is called disorganized attachment, and it is the hardest to talk about, but the most important to meet without judgment. It tends to form in the most painful of situations, when the very person a child is wired to run to for safety is also, at times, a source of fear. The child is left with an impossible problem. Their instinct screams, run toward comfort, but comfort and threat live inside the same person. In the strange situation, these children often froze, or moved toward the parent, and then suddenly away, caught between two colliding needs. And this pattern is often passed down, not out of cruelty, but from mothers and fathers carrying deep, unhealed wounds of their own. Which is exactly why understanding it matters so much. Because a pattern that was passed down is a pattern that can also be stopped. Naming it is never about blame. It is the first brave step toward breaking a cycle that no one in the chain ever chose. And if any of these 4 styles made your stomach drop, if you saw your child or saw yourself, then the next 2 minutes are the most important in this whole video. Because here is what almost no one tells you about attachment styles. They are not a diagnosis. They are not a life sentence stamped onto your child or onto you. They are simply the map a young nervous system drew to make sense of the love it was given. And the single most important thing about a map is that it can always be redrawn. A child is not clay that hardens by the age of 2 and keeps that shape forever. They are a living, changing being, and so is the bond between you. So if you have spent this whole video quietly grieving, please lift your head. Because the real question was never what did I get wrong. The real question is what actually builds a secure, resilient child. And the answer is so much gentler than the fear you have been carrying. So what truly builds a securely attached child? The answer is almost unbelievably gentle. It is not being available every second. It is not never getting it wrong or magically reading their mind. In fact, when researchers looked closely, they found that parents of securely attached children were tuned in and getting it right only about 1/3 of the time. Let that land for a second. 1/3. What mattered was never perfection. It was a pattern of attunement, of tuning in to your baby, and coming back whenever you missed. You become what Bowlby called a secure base, the safe place your child launches out from to explore the world, and the safe place they run back to when it all gets too big. When your baby is upset and you gently name it, that was so scary. I am right here. You're not only soothing this one small moment, you're teaching their brain, slowly, how to soothe itself one day. And when you simply delight in them, when your whole face lights up just because they crawled into the room, you tell them something they will carry forever. You are worth loving exactly as you are. This is why the exhausted mother, humming in the dark at 3 in the morning, doing what feels like nothing at all, is doing the most important work there is. But there is one piece underneath all of this that once you understand it, changes everything. A baby cannot calm themselves down. That ability is not something they are born with. It is something they slowly grow, and only by borrowing it from you first. When your baby is overwhelmed, their heart racing, their little body flooded with distress, they cannot reach for calm on their own, so they reach for yours. Scientists call this co-regulation. Your steady heartbeat, your slow breathing, your soft voice, literally help to regulate their racing nervous system from the outside in. You are, for these first years, their external calm, their off switch for panic. And every single time you hold them through a storm of feeling and bring them back to peace, their brain is quietly recording how it is done. This is how a child eventually learns to self-soothe, to manage their own big emotions, not by being left alone to figure it out, but by being calmed over and over, until that calm becomes their own. So the next time someone tells you that you are spoiling your baby by holding them too much, you can smile and know the truth. Your presence is not spoiling them. Your presence is the lesson. But even the most present mother gets it wrong sometimes. And what you do next matters more than the mistake. You will get it wrong, you will be distracted and short, and some days you will snap, and then look at their little face and feel like you have broken something you can never fix. You have not. Because secure attachment is not built by parents who never rupture the connection. It is built by parents who repair it. Psychologists call this rupture and repair, and it may be the single most freeing idea in all of this. Studies of even the best, most attuned parents found they were truly in sync with their babies only about 30% of the time. The other 70% was a constant little dance of missing each other and finding their way back. That finding back is not the consolation prize. It is the entire thing. Every time you come back after a hard moment, get down to their level and reconnect. I am sorry I got upset. That was not your fault. You teach your child the most important lesson there is, that love survives conflict, that the people who hurt us can come back, that one broken moment is never the end of a bond. The rupture was never the failure. The repair is the whole point. Which finally brings me to the promise I made you at the very beginning. Right at the start, I said I would tell you the single biggest thing that predicts a secure, resilient child. Researchers went looking for it. They expected the answer to be things like whether the parent had a happy childhood, or money, or a calm temperament. But that is not what they found. The strongest predictor of raising a securely attached child was not whether your own childhood was good. It was whether you had made sense of it. Whether you could look honestly at your own story, the painful parts included, and understand it, and grieve it. They call the result earned secure attachment. And it means something extraordinary. You do not have to have been given a secure childhood to give one. Parents who had hard, even frightening beginnings, but who turned and faced them with honesty, went on to raise secure children anyway. This is how cycles break. Not by pretending the past did not hurt, but by refusing to hand it down unexamined. So if you carry a map that was drawn for you by people who were struggling too, hear this clearly. You are not doomed to repeat it. The very fact that you are here, trying to understand, is the work. You can be the one who changes the pattern. You can be the beginning of a whole new map for everyone who comes after you. So let us make it real. If attachment is built in the small, ordinary moments, which moments matter most? First, follow their lead. When your baby serves, a babble, a pointed finger, a reaching hand, return it. Name what they see. Delight in what delights them. That is the serve and return that wires their brain. Second, let your face be their mirror. Long before words, your baby reads safety in your eyes, so when you can, soften. Let them catch you being glad they exist. Third, be the calm they borrow. When the storm comes, you do not need the perfect words. Lower your voice, slow your breath, hold them steady, and lend them your nervous system. Fourth, name the feeling instead of rushing to fix it. You are so frustrated. That was hard. I am here. Feelings that are named, out loud, and without judgment, are feelings a child slowly learns to carry. And fifth, always repair. When you lose your temper, and you will, come back. The coming back is the bond. You do not have to do any of these perfectly. You just have to keep returning to them, again and again. So if you are listening to this with an ache in your chest, thinking of the days you were too tired, too overwhelmed, too human to be the parent you wanted to be, please hear this. Attachment is not a verdict handed down in the first year and sealed forever. The brain stays changeable, and so does the bond between you. Every warm moment, every repair, every time you choose to turn toward your child instead of away, you are still building it, still redrawing that map. There is no such thing as a perfect parent, and your child has never needed one. They need a real one, who keeps coming back. The bond you are building is not made of flawless days. It is made of returns, of the 10,000 small times you turn back toward them when it would be so much easier to turn away. You are not the storm your child has to survive. You are the safe harbor they get to return to. So the next time you lift your baby in the middle of the night, or soften your voice after a long, hard day, know that you are not just getting through the moment. You are laying down the very foundation of how a whole human being will love and trust and feel safe in this world. It is invisible, and it is enormous, and you are already doing it. If this finally gave words to something you feel every single day, share it with a parent who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments about the moment you first felt that bond click into place. And if you saw yourself in one of those 4 styles, know that naming it was the brave first step. Subscribe, and let's keep uncovering the quiet science of you and your child, the things no one ever explains. You were never just getting by. You were building a whole world,